It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10, our top story. Fear at the funerals, panic among the people after the electronic pages, the handheld radio explosions targeting the militants of Hezbollah. The devices used for comms turned into bombs on the streets of Lebanon and the international supply chain, which may have been used to hide them. Israel says its war is entering a new phase, but there's still no formal admission it's behind the attacks. Also tonight, smiles, Taylor Swift and a six-figure sum, how the Prime Minister claimed more gifts and freebies than any other MP. The coming hours are critical. We see the soldiers standing in line with residents to fend off the floods in Poland and beyond. We hear from the football team facing the threat of Russia's war in Ukraine, but defying that tonight in the Champions League. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages. That's in our press preview from 10:30 right through to midnight. Hello, good evening. Israel said tonight its war is entering a new phase and shifting to the north. And on the streets of its neighbour, Lebanon, the apparent consequence was another day of death and fear. After the electronic pages, which exploded yesterday in the pockets and hands of Hezbollah militants, today it was handheld radios. At least 20 people were killed and 450 injured. There was no admission of responsibility from Israel, and the ultimate source of the devices which detonated is still unclear. We'll have more on that trail in a moment, but first, from Beirut, our special correspondent Alex Crawford has this report.
The funerals had barely begun when there was more terror. This was Nabatea in the south of the country, yet more panic. This time at the funeral of those killed in the string of pager explosions less than 24 hours earlier. In Beirut too, the Lebanese army was on standby as 4 funerals were held, for 2 Hezbollah fighters but also for a young boy and a medic. Thousands had gathered in the capital, including women and children, when it became apparent Lebanon was facing a second wave of attacks. It quickly emerged there were fresh methods being deployed. Witnesses said radios in cars appeared to blow and nearby vehicles were hastily driven away. Others posted on social media about how their two-way radios had exploded. It was the battery, he's saying. Alarm quickly spread as those who'd had narrow escapes were enveloped in shock. And this is a collective countrywide shock. But there's also fear now about all electronic devices and those like us who are using them.
There's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of tension. Apparently 2 walkie-talkies have exploded. That man says it exploded just next to him. There's a lot of fear amongst you, especially about cameras, phones, anything.
The funerals went on as Israeli drones circled above, to the astonishment of the mourners. The numbers quickly exceeded the previous day's death toll. There were multiple explosions, not just in Beirut, but in several towns across the country. Vehicles set alight, homes burned, and shops filled with choking smoke. Wherever they are, the Lebanese people are beginning to feel there are few safe places. 90 hospitals are on emergency alert and already packed with thousands of casualties after the spate of pager explosions, many with catastrophic facial and eye injuries. The surgeons have been working non-stop to try to save limbs or eyesight, often knowing they cannot succeed.
It's a massacre, it's a crime, isn't it? Or it had different description. The one who did it is a criminal. Is more than criminal, is a monster.
Hezbollah is a designated terror group by the US and UK, but the Lebanese government's furious at the string of indiscriminate attacks in public places which have harmed so many.
I mean, this is an act of aggression against non-combatants, community people. Even if some of them are combatants, but this is a non-discriminatory act of attack. And I think that, the use of this non-discriminatory force or attacks, which
clearly will affect civilians is something, in my mind, is something against international humanitarian law.
As Lebanon was coping with a second day of widespread emergencies, most were blaming their Israeli neighbour. Israel's leaders have not referred at all to the device explosions, but the Prime Minister has long made clear his desire to rid his northern border of the Hezbollah threat.
I've said before, we'll return the residents of the north securely to their homes, and that's exactly what we're going to do.
His defence minister declared a new phase of the war.
The centre of gravity is moving north, so we're diverting forces, resources and energy to the north. We haven't forgotten our hostages or Gaza, but we're performing this duty at the same time.
Hezbollah has vowed revenge, but so far the powerful fighting group backed by Iran appears to be outpaced by events. Fear is spreading, casualties are rising, and the Gaza ceasefire they've linked their attacks against Israel to is still as far away as ever. Alex Crawford, Sky News, Beirut.
Well, which organisation ultimately ordered the exploding pagers and handheld radios may not be known tonight, and finding out where they were filled with explosives appears equally shadowy. A Taiwanese company denied making them, and Hungary's Prime Minister said they were never in his country, despite another linked company being based there. Our security and defence editor Deborah Haynes has more.
A very modern form of unconventional warfare blamed on Israel. Communication devices turned into bombs. Even reports of solar-powered equipment blowing up.
The attacks underline how anything can be used as a weapon. They also expose the vulnerability of supply chains relied upon to produce everyday items. This is the type of pager caught up in the blasts and what it looked like afterwards. Next to be targeted, handheld radios that can be used like walkie-talkies. Publicity material about the AR-924 pager says it has a battery life of 85 days, ideal for use in Lebanon where power is unreliable. Experts say the pagers were tampered with before they were distributed. This was likely done by putting a small amount of explosives inside each of them, along with a detonator. The battery would act as a power source. A signal could be then sent over the network to trigger the explosion. A similar technique could have been used for the radios. Such tampering points to the infiltration of the supply chains that delivered the devices. The company behind the pager is called Gold Apollo, based in Taiwan, but it claims the pagers that detonated in Lebanon were made by another firm called BAC Consulting, based at this anonymous-looking building more than 5,500 miles away in Budapest. BAC Consulting was reportedly given a licence to use the Gold Apollo branding, yet a company official has denied involvement. However it happened, the defective pagers ended up in the hands of Hezbollah. They exploded in Beirut and other parts of Lebanon, as well as the Syrian capital, Damascus.
On the assumption that some intelligence body did it, and we, Israel, of course, do not take responsibility, then this is a long-term intelligence infiltration operation. I also estimate that a very, very significant witch hunt will begin in order to try and find out where the loopholes and cracks were.
While neither confirming nor denying involvement, Israel has now declared a new phase in the war, with focus shifting to its northern border with Lebanon.
High stakes and fears, this conflict is about to erupt into a wider war. Deborah Haynes, Sky News.
Well, Alex Crawford joins us from Beirut tonight. I'll talk to you, Alex, in just a moment. First, though, to Dan Whitehead, who's in Budapest for us. And Dan, the hunt continues for how this was done. And what's happened there today is evidence of the way that this plot has been carried out firmly in the shadows.
Yeah, as you delve deeper to try and find the origin of the company behind these pagers and walkie-talkies, you're finding an increasingly complex web of companies. That web has brought us to this quiet suburban street on the outskirts of the Hungarian capital. And behind me, that office which Deborah mentioned in her report there of BAC Consulting. Now, today, their chief executive has come out and said they're not involved in the manufacturing. This certainly isn't a manufacturing base, it's just a registered office, and that they are an intermediary company. That was backed up by the Prime Minister of Hungary's spokesperson, saying that the pages were not made here, they weren't made in the country, those pages were not brought into the country either, and that the situation in Lebanon does not pose a security risk here in Hungary. But there clearly is some link with this company, and tonight we're learning in Hungarian media that there may be a company in Sofia, the Bulgarian capital, that could be involved in the purchase and distribution of those thousands of pages which exploded just yesterday. An increasingly murky supply chain, and certainly more questions than answers.
Well, Alex, you saw the mourning and the fear on the streets there. Now Israel has said a new phase of the war is beginning. So what does happen now amid this extremely intense atmosphere?
Well, given that no one in the world anticipated what has happened over the last 2 days, least of all those in Lebanon, I think it's extremely hard to be definitive and almost foolish to go there. And probably the best way of looking forward and finding out what might happen is to look at what the key actors are saying. So you've got the Israeli Prime Minister and the Israeli Defense Minister, both signalling today, no reference to these explosive devices, but signalling that they are switching the war out of focused on Gaza and retrieving their Israeli hostages in Gaza and towards the north, talking about sending forces there and resources and energy all in the north of Israel, and their eyes and their hairs are on Hezbollah, and that they have made no secret of their desire to smash Hezbollah. They see them as an extension of Hamas, and they want to get rid of them, and they want to cow them and break them. So we've got what they're saying, and that seems to signal a lot more difficulty ahead, a lot more war, a lot more attention focused on Lebanon and Hezbollah inside Lebanon. Then we also have Hezbollah. And we've been talking to those within the very close circle of Hezbollah and close to that circle, and they've been telling us tonight that there is definitely going to be punishment from Hezbollah. We're hearing from the leader, Hassan Nasrallah, tomorrow. He's going to be making a nationwide address. But they are promising punishment against Israel, but they're also extremely fearful and worried about how this compromising of their communication system and their communication network has left them massively exposed. So right now, they are the strongest military fighting group, non-state actor fighting group in this region. They're backed by Iran. So the future looks terribly grim, and at the moment it looks like there's going to be big step closer to all-out war between the two countries.
Dan in Budapest and Alex in Beirut, thank you. Now, Sir Keir Starmer has accepted a six-figure sum's worth of gifts and hospitality since the 2019 election, significantly more than any other serving MP. That is the startling revelation from the Westminster accounts, our analysis of the donations and payment records from MPs and political parties. Well, included in the total are £4,000 on Taylor Swift tickets and more than £35,000 on football matches. Our deputy political editor, Sam Coates, can reveal more.
The Westminster Accounts is a major collaboration between Sky News and partners, Tortoise Media, which tracks how money flows through our political system, and now overhauled for the new political era and the new government. This man is at the helm, and he's promising he's different to his predecessors. He must declare everything he received, and he has received a lot. Over £107,000. That's the total gifts and hospitality he has registered since the start of the last Parliament. Holidays, theatre, football tickets, all within the rules, Downing Street say. But look at this. Compared to every other current MP, Keir Starmer comes top of the charts. He has accepted freebies by far more than anyone else. 2.5 times more than the second highest MP. Now, this table here is the top 10 MPs have accepted the most in gifts, excluding legal fees. And these are who gave the most gifts and hospitality to Keir Starmer. Wealthy donors, sports firms, music companies, media giants. And this was, Keir Starmer said, a swift campaign stop. And it was an expensive one. Tickets to Taylor Swift at Wembley, gifted to him, and worth £4,000. Now, the source of those tickets are another of the PM's top donors of freebies, the Premier League. Over 12.5 grand's worth of tickets to Taylor Swift and a lot of football, including the Euros final. These are far and away not the only games the PM has accepted freebies to see. Look at this. Keir Starmer has accepted over £35,000 worth of football tickets alone since the 2019 election. And some in government are worrying to me that with big decisions on a football regulator being made, there's a conflict of interest, and accepting these gifts could be a problem. One official told me Sue Gray should be putting a stop to this. But the Prime Minister is not rowing back. He said to journalists just this week, if I don't accept gifts of hospitality, I can't go to a game. You could say, well, bad luck. That's why gifts have to be registered. But, you know, never going to an Arsenal game again because I can't accept hospitality is pushing it a bit far. Some in Labour are asking me why he can't just pay for the tickets himself. Now, I've learnt that Keir Starmer was warned while he was in opposition that his openness to freebies could become a problem. But he didn't listen. And some of his biggest supporters are beginning to worry. Demands for a tighter political grip in Number 10 are now common across the party, revealing frustrations at his Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, who we now believe is paid more than the Prime Minister himself. Not the backdrop the Prime Minister wants to his first conference in government.
Well, Sam is in Downing Street for us tonight. So do you think many people will see, fairly or not, Sam, a difference between the public image of Sir Keir Starmer as serious, unfrivolous, and some of the spending that you outlined there?
Well, look, Anna, I've been talking to a lot of people this evening, and it is not hard to find Labour Party members from the Cabinet downwards to the ruling National Executive Body to some of Downing Street's most fervent supporters deeply, deeply uncomfortable by the scale of the freebies that Keir Starmer is accepting. They know it makes it harder to mount that argument about taking winter fuel allowance away from pensioners when the Prime Minister is seen to be taking thousands of pounds in tickets. They also know they are going to be hammered by the Tories for months to come on this. Listen to one leadership contender, Tom Tugendhat, do exactly that with Sophie Ridge earlier.
You know, I've been invited to many different events, missed different moments, and, you know, you've got to make a decision. Does it look right? Does it smell right? Does it pass the sniff test, frankly? And to be number one in that ranking does raise some questions.
Do you think it passes the sniff test, then?
I think it raises questions.
But difficult stories come in pairs, and it seems like Sue Gray, that Chief of Staff to Keir Starmer, is tonight a lightning rod for criticism of his administration. It's emerged she is paid more than the Prime Minister. She's a former civil servant. The question being asked across the Labour Party is, didn't she have enough political nous to know that that would look bad? Why hasn't she stopped the freebies being taken by the Prime Minister? When that looks bad, what other things has she failed to drop? The question that is live tonight is Sue Gray the most powerful figure, the most powerful advisor around Keir Starmer, the right person to be at his side after all these mistakes?
Sam, live for us here in Downing Street, thank you. And if you scan the QR code on your screen now, you can access the Sky News Westminster Accounts tool to find out more about the money your MP receives and from where. Leading midwife Donna Ockenden says the Conservative government was asleep at the wheel in terms of maternity safety and didn't put the effort into improving care. Ms Ockenden, who has led major reviews into maternity care in the UK, is chairing an inquiry into maternity failings at hospitals in Nottingham. Sky's health correspondent Ashish Joshi spoke to her and to the parents of one baby who died.
Maternity services is an area where we have failed the families and communities that we exist to serve. Not all of you will stay. You are very welcome to stay if you'd like to for all the proceedings today.
On the background of nearly 2,000 families, are you able to tell us how many investigations have been open or completed into staff behaviours.
The grieving mother is Sarah Hawkins. Her daughter Harriet was born dead in 2016. But she would be alive today had the hospital listened to and addressed the parents' concerns.
I know so many mothers that, and myself included, that the first walk they took their baby on was in their coffin. I think justice to me means that those people that have covered up for so long accept what they have done, and they're not above the law, and we believe that there are people working in the trust that should be in jail.
There has been no accountability, and you and I would know if accountability had happened at the right level, because it would have been loud, it would have been board members, and it would have been senior doctors and senior midwives.
Donna Ockenden is leading this investigation into 2,000 cases of baby deaths or severe harm over 10 years from 2012 onwards. But she warned that mothers and babies continue to be at risk across the country because the last government has failed to action her previous recommendations despite promises to act quickly.
We then had multiple changes of Secretary of State. The government were, quite frankly, asleep at the wheel as regards maternity services. And we're still in a position where we need accelerated progress on those immediate and essential actions.
We're streeting told Sky News he has agreed to Ockenden's call for an urgent meeting.
What we've seen in the case of specific trusts are problems and risk factors that exist right across maternity services across the country.
Nottingham University Hospitals NHS Trust says it's managing those risk factors and has implemented changes to ensure mother and baby safety. Sarah and Jack recently had to explain to Harriet's little sister why she's not with them. Now they want and deserve the same explanation. Ashish Joshi, Sky News in Nottingham.
For more than a week in the summer, thousands of people took to the streets night after night as riots swept through towns in England as well as in Northern Ireland and Wales. Shops were looted, cars were burnt, and mosques and hotels housing asylum seekers were attacked. Well, the Prime Minister described the violence as far-right thuggery. But as our national correspondent, Tom Parmenter, has been finding out, for some of those involved, that feels like a failure to grasp what they say was really behind it.
There was anger, racism and chaos. What happened on the 3rd of August in Hull horrified people in this city as much as anywhere else. Rioters hunting down people who didn't look like them.
We were there, watching it all.
What did you make of it when you were watching it?
Deserved. Get rid of them. I just think it's wrong. Because I know a lot of people are on the streets and stuff, you know, and it's not right. They're not getting the help they deserve, but they just come here illegally and get everything they want.
Oscar and James say they were there documenting what was happening in their city, but did not get involved.
But you kind of look at me like, you know, I've got a problem with immigrants. I don't have a problem with immigrants. I have a problem with the system.
But quite a few people on that, in that moment, really did. And it was direct, and people of colour were being attacked and chased.
Yes.
And that's overt racism.
Yeah, and I get it, yeah. I believe they just wanted to, you know, to kick back at the people that are in here. You know, I don't think everybody thinks like me and goes, God bless them, they've got a problem too. Because they have got problems. Yeah. They've been through hell.
The Prime Minister described it as far-right thuggery. But we've spoken to many people here who say there was far more at play. Along the Anlaby Road, we met Danny and Lisa.
Good afternoon, Adept.
They're busy, juggling vulnerable people and not enough decent housing.
It's just chaos, in it, to be fair. But it is down to the government to sort it. There's only them who can. And the only way, in my eyes, they'll do it is that they give them equal opportunities. If they're going to allow them, then so be it. But please look after ours as well. Otherwise, it'll just continue, and it will.
Donna feels that frustration too. She's been homeless in Hull for the last 2.5 years.
Our country should be looking after us, not other people's problems. It's not
They want to sort their own problems out first, and this is one of them.
And you find that sentiment all over Britain because successive UK governments have failed to manage immigration. There are open wounds, and the roots of these riots run deep. Tom Parmenter, Sky News, Hull.
Police forces in the UK are being dangerously stretched by issues such as homelessness, racial and religious disharmony, and criminal use of new technology, according to Britain's top police officer. The Met Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley's, claimed there's been a lack of investment in law and order and that public criticism of the police is making the problems worse. US interest rates have been cut for the first time in more than 4 years. The US Central Bank, the Federal Reserve, brought interest rates down 0.5 percentage points to the range of 4.75% to 5%. It comes as the UK's central bank, the Bank of England, meets tomorrow, where it's widely expected to keep interest rates unchanged after official figures showed inflation in the UK holding steady. The next 24 hours are critical, the Polish army told Sky News today, as soldiers join people trying to sandbag against floodwater, which is rising again. At least 23 people are known to have died so far across Romania, Poland, Austria and the Czech Republic due to the flooding. And Slovakia, Hungary and Italy are all bracing for heavy rain in the next few days. Well, residents in southwestern Poland are hoping flood defences erected along riverbanks hold, with water levels expected to peak late tonight and remain high for days. It was in Żagań that we saw the army deployed to help hold back floodwaters. Our Europe correspondent, Siobhan Robbins, is there.
In Żagań, there's no time to lose. Leaks have appeared in this flood wall. Now the army is rushing to plug them and keep this raging river out. What's happening here is some of the most essential work of this flood. The bags here are slowing the flow of the water, and if they don't do this fast enough, then the pressure could simply take this wall down, inundating the streets behind. But for some homes, the help's come too late. Floodwaters arrived overnight, rising around the town's power plant, submerging the local park. How much risk is still left for this town?
For this town, is about next 24 hours will be critical. If the water will go after the 24 hours, the level will go lower and lower, and everything will be in correct way.
Danuta's family's been told to evacuate the house. Her children have been taken to safety, but she's staying put for now. I've never experienced anything like it, so I'm shocked, but I hope it will be okay, she says. The flooding in Poland's been classified a disaster. Whole communities have been left underwater. The city of Wrocław is now on high alert. A wave is predicted to hit in the next 24 hours, so the race is on to bolster defences. But the flood is creeping closer to Jakob's house. Are you confident that this sand wall might protect you? Is it enough?
I don't know at the moment if it's enough or not.
So it's quite a scary wait.
Yeah, it's very scary.
In the flooded gardens, Michał's looking for stranded pets. This is one of the cats he's pulled from the water. Everyone here is doing what they can to defend their city. The coming hours will prove if it's enough. Siobhan Robbins, Sky News, Poland.
Finally, we want to show the world that we are alive. The message tonight from the boss of what he calls a unique football team, Shakhtar Donetsk. They're currently in fear of being targeted by Russia and haven't played in their home city for more than 10 years. Well, tonight they kicked off in the Champions League, as our sports correspondent Rob Harris reports.
Champions League kick-off in Italy for Shakhtar Donetsk. Starting another campaign is about more than football, but a symbol of survival and resilience. In the colours of Ukraine, tonight playing away at Bologna. But they've spent a decade now in exile, as a football club and one of the first Ukrainian front lines to fall to Russia. The CEO telling me how they're coping, as sport continues in wartime.
For us, it's very important to participate in European competition because We want to show to the whole world and to our Ukrainian population that we are alive, football alive in Ukraine. And for us, like for club, it's priority #1 to save their lives.
But nowhere is truly safe. The team was due to check into this hotel in central Ukraine last month ahead of a domestic match.
This hotel was completely bombed by Russia. And can you imagine for players how they thinking, I mean, they should stay there. I mean, if attack will be 3 days later, it will be catastrophe,
Scrambling to the shelters now part of the routine for players, even during matches as the Ukrainian league plays on in largely empty stadiums. But growing fears of being targeted by Russia. Secrecy now around where Shakhtar stay.
I'm not telling anybody place and name of hotel, because I don't want to have some kind of manipulation because of this case. I mean, everything we are keeping under secret, and therefore for us to run a club at this time, it's very difficult.
The Champions League opening with a draw in Italy. And forced to play their European home matches in Germany, Shakhtar Donetsk are dreaming of the day they can bring football back to the home city, captured by Russia 10 years ago. Rob Harris, Sky News.
Well, that was Sky News at 10. Coming up, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's newspapers in the press preview tonight, joined by the Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire, and the Telegraph's deputy comment editor, Annabel Denham. Welcome and great to see both of you. Well, among the stories we will be discussing, this on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Its headline, New Phase of Mideast War After Walkie-Talkie Blitz. That and plenty more after we come back.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win.
Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
Well, this is Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. First, though, a reminder of our top stories this evening. Israel's defence minister has declared a new phase of its war and said the focus is shifting north. More than 20 people were killed in Lebanon in further explosions today, this time inside handheld radios or walkie-talkies. Sir Keir Starmer has declared gifts and freebies totalling more than £100,000, the highest of any MP. And the Polish government has said it is facing a national disaster as the army works to battle rising floodwaters. Well, hello there. You're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the Mirror's associate editor, Kevin Maguire, and the Telegraph's deputy comment editor, Annabelle Denham. Welcome to both of you. So let's see then what is on the front pages, starting with the Telegraph. It leads with the fresh wave of blasts across Lebanon as Israel says the war is entering a new phase. It's also the lead for the Express, which reports that Israel is suspected of being behind the attacks. The Metro with the same story as new details emerge about the origin of the devices behind the blasts. While The Guardian focuses on fears of escalation in the region in the wake of those deadly explosions. The Times with its headline, New Phase in the Conflict as walkie-talkie blasts kill 20. The Daily Mail leads with an exclusive interview with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who they say has accused Labour of undermining Israel. The King of the Cadgers reads the Daily Star. After it emerged the Prime Minister has accepted a six-figure sum's worth of gifts and hospitality since the 2019 election. The FT reports on the US Central Bank's decision to cut interest rates for the first time in more than 4 years. That is, of course, ahead of the Bank of England's own decision at lunchtime tomorrow. And The Eye leading with an exclusive, its headline, Rogue Landlord MP, founded nursery firm accused of child safety breaches. A reminder, by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you listen to our guests. Let's head to Kevin and Annabelle with this most extraordinary tale in Lebanon. Yesterday, electronic papers. Today, your paper. The walkie-talkie bomb blitz. Solar panels reported to also be exploding. You know, this is frightening on so many levels.
It is. It's an extraordinary tale in an area that's incredibly troubled. Some people, I think I would agree, if it is Israel, it's state terrorism, when it's indiscriminate in that civilians, kids are being killed. Can you imagine if Putin did it to his opponents, or Al-Qaeda, or Hezbollah, or Hamas were doing it in Israel? It would be utterly condemned. But it is absolutely extraordinary. Of course, Israel hasn't accepted responsibility, but everything coming out, the praise of Mossad, and the Mirror on the front pages, quoting the Israeli Defence Minister Yoav Gallant, talking about the start of a new phase in the war as Israel is, Gaza is in ruins, Hamas is defeated or not, however you want to describe it, but it's certainly been heavily hit, as well as innocent Palestinians. So it looks like Israel is now shifting towards Lebanon, where Hezbollah is both a political party and runs social centres, education, and being a paramilitary group which Britain, EU, US consider to be a terrorist organisation.
Well, indeed, a prescribed terror organisation, yes. And many who are supporting Israel would say this is an incredibly targeted attack on a prescribed terror organisation, rather than this being state terrorism.
Yeah,
White House had that question put to them today, would not answer the question.
No, well, I think that was telling, yeah.
Right, interesting. The Guardian, fears of escalation. I mean, this is a lot about what will happen in the region. Never mind, we'll come on to in a moment, about the fear of electronic warfare. But anyway, what does happen now, and how much longer can Iran sit back and watch its proxy, Hezbollah, be targeted in this way?
Well, it's for a long time avoided any kind of direct confrontation with the West, and I imagine will continue to do so for as long as it possibly can, for fear that it will lose, were it to really, were the US to be drawn into this conflict. What would that actually mean for Iran? It could be deeply humiliating for them. So no, I think so long as they can operate through their proxies, Hamas and Hezbollah, they will continue to do so. I think really, there are two questions on everybody's minds today. The first is, what is Israel up to? And there are reports now that these explosions were expedited because the plot had been compromised, that they weren't doing this in response to a new, fresh attack from Hezbollah. So I think there's sort of the question of what Israel is up to, but also what's going to happen next in terms of escalation in the region, as you say. Possibly too early to really say, but certainly Hezbollah's leader has said that there may be, or has hinted that there may be some kind of call to arms, that there will be punishment for these attacks, that they will be deeply upset by, of course. And Israel, at the same time, Defence Minister Yoav Gallant saying that there may be some pivot now in this conflict towards northern Israel, where so many people have been displaced.
Just pick up on one thing. You said the West and the US being drawn into it. They're making absolutely clear they did not know of this plot. And certainly Antony Blinken, US Secretary of State in Egypt, expressing frustration, urging restraint and urging nations not to take measures that would lead to escalation.
But I mean, that's a familiar refrain from the US.
Benjamin Netanyahu's made it, the US look weak and Joe Biden and Blinken look weak because they supply many of the arms and they seem to have no influence over policies that we're aware of. And of course, this undermines the possibility of an end to the fighting in Gaza and some type of pause to hopefully free the hostages and get aid to innocent Palestinians. But the Guardian quotes the Secretary General of the United Nations condemning what has happened. And at the same time, Israel has made, actually, Iran and Hezbollah look weak, with assassinations and attacks, because whatever the rhetoric is, it's Israel that seems to be pushing most aggressively. It will say legitimately against enemies, but the question is, how do you do that? And who gets killed in the process.
It's the details of this attack as well, which are deeply humiliating. This is old-fashioned espionage. Some would describe it as spectacular counter-terrorism from Israel. And for Hezbollah to have disclosed earlier this year that it was shifting communications to pages in order to thwart any attempts by Israel to disrupt those communications channels, only for these pages to have been fitted with explosives, and distributed to unsuspecting customers. It is deeply embarrassing.
It's ingenious,
yes,
in some ways, but if it's deeply disturbing, because next time you get on a plane with laptops and phones and whatever, I mean, look, if Israel can do it, what's Al-Qaeda or IS or other terrorist organisations around the world going to do?
Which is why I think people will persist in trying to find out how this was done.
Exactly how.
And, via Taiwan, denied, Hungary, denied today. There's gaps in the supply chain which will still be investigated because people need to know.
Well, either they've, whoever is responsible, we believe it's Israel, has managed to change the manufacture, or it's interrupted a supply and altered them, or it's somehow produced clones and inserted them. Whatever it is, there's no doubt. It has disrupted Hezbollah, and it will create a panic in that organisation. But it's the killing of innocent people and children that makes it terrorism.
Well, indeed, this is The Guardian has relatives mourning Fatima Abdullah, a 10-year-old girl. This funeral taking place in the Bekaa Valley. And our correspondent, Alex Crawford, in Beirut at another child's funeral when these explosions in the handheld radios or the walkie-talkies went off. So targeting, walkie-talkies during a funeral. I mean, that's you know, that is hardly non-escalatory, isn't it? Daily Telegraph, new phase of Mideast war after walkie-talkie blitz. This urgency that Israel now finds to get its residents back into northern Israel, where they've abandoned their towns and villages. Much could be said on the same side of the border in Lebanon as well.
No, absolutely, which is a legitimate aim. Those people, tens of thousands of people have been disrupted. And Hezbollah isn't, it's not a peaceful organisation.
No,
let's be honest.
There are thousands of missiles being pointed at those people.
And it poses a real threat to people in Lebanon who it disagrees with, as well as Israelis and Israel itself. But nevertheless, it is how you conduct that conflict if you are a democracy.
The front page of the Times, if we have it, new phase in the conflict as walkie-talkie blasts kill 20. Another image there of a vehicle set on fire, they suggest. And also the inside pages, their world section, death by pager, how Mossad wrought havoc on Hezbollah. And that question of how, as we have already discussed, is what the world will want to know because of the audacity of this attack.
Yes, that's right. And it risks actually spiralling into a much broader diplomatic incident. As you said, Taiwan have denied any involvement. Hungary have been quick to say that these devices were not manufactured on Hungarian soil. As Kevin says, we don't know at what stage, perhaps during the supply chain, they were intercepted. It was an ingenious move, but it throws up all sorts of questions about the protection and of the devices that we all carry around with us every day.
The Times loves a good graphic, and of course how the device has exploded. It signalled to the Hezbollah pager, claiming it detonates when the button is pressed, because the signal has been received, and there's metal balls around the battery to maximise the impact.
But it's the precision. Of course, there has been collateral damage, and that's an absolute tragedy. We don't want to read about any civilian casualties. But nonetheless, that they were able to pinpoint these particular devices, send them whatever code it was to trigger the explosive is extraordinary.
If you turn pagers and walkie-talkies into bombs, it's like turning cars into bombs. You are going to kill innocent people because they will just be close by. I mean, that's...
Well, you are disabling... literally Hezbollah. One surgeon who has spoken, 60% lost one eye. The suggestion is, this is of yesterday's attack, most also losing a hand, not able to save a lot of eyes, brain damage and facial damage included in those injuries, and obviously injuries as well around the waistband of trousers where the pages would have been. And the plot has drawn everybody to BAC Consulting, a private residence in Budapest. Somebody arrives once a month to collect the post, and that is so far where journalism has got to. We'll watch and see if it moves on from that small side street in a residential part of the Hungarian capital. Lots more to discuss on this, which we will do a bit later on. Also ahead, our investigation finds Sir Keir Starmer has taken more gifts and favours than any other MP since 2019. The Star's talking about it, and so will we. That's next.
Hello and welcome to Politics at Jack and Sam's Daily, the podcast equivalent of a Pro Plus caffeine tablet that tells you everything about what you need to know in the day ahead in British politics in under 20 minutes.
My name is Jack Blanchard of Politico. With me in the Zoom call is Sam Coates of Sky News.
The front runner among the members, Kenny Badenoch, did much worse than I was expecting. Now, traditionally and historically, MPs want to rush to back early the front-runner candidate because it helps your chances of getting a job further down the track. It's good to be seen to be there early with the person who's going to win. And the fact that even though she was topping a lot of the surveys, that she didn't get more than 6 votes behind Robert Jenrick is very ominous for her campaign.
This issue had sort of bubbled away a bit last week. It was always going to come back this week because of the vote, but it was rather blown up again on Thursday due to a very prominent Labour Party commentator wading in on it and saying that Rachel Reeves might need an escape route. Now, that person was Ed Balls, who used possibly one of the most prominent Labour figures to speak about Treasury matters.
Oh my God.
What happened?
Sorry, I've got my cat is fighting another cat through the window. I'm going to have to stop it.
There's a cat fight.
They have breached the road. There is a lot of gas being fired all around us. It is an absolute carnival kind of atmosphere out here for Prime Minister Modi's decisive victory. These students are defying the prohibitory order, and now they're going to be arrested. We aim to be the best and most trusted place for news. The roads have been inundated. The only way out is to get people by boat. This on any given day would have been bustling with people, but today it's absolutely deserted. I'm Neville Lazarus, and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi.
The most significant day of this conflict.
They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Heavy vehicle. Why only in America? People want their country to work.
You want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win.
Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview with me once again, Kevin Maguire and Annabelle Denham. Welcome back to both of you. After Frockgate, we've now got the total spend, if I can put it that way, since 2019 of Sir Keir Starmer. Daily Star has picked up on our Westminster accounts coverage of this, the king of the cadgers. Tay-Tay tickets, that's a new way of saying it, isn't it? Footy tickets, Coldplay tickets, implying he's having a rather nice time, put it that way.
Yes, over £100,000 since 2019, I believe, in gifts and tickets and clothes. And this week he's been called not just two-tier Keir, but free gear Keir. His wife, Victoria Sponge, social media is having a field day. But look, this is a man who, for years, did not hesitate to criticise the Conservative Party for being marred in sleaze, often, you know, legitimately so.
But for him onwards, to be fair,
from
I guess.
Wallpaper onwards, and of course, Boris Johnson's behaviour during the pandemic with Partygate and so on and so forth. And he has presented himself as the model of, you know, probity
He's not
person who would he's not clean up British politics.
It's
and 70 days into his administration, after a landslide victory, all of this is coming out, and you know, there's nothing the British public dislike more than a hypocrite.
Yeah, it looks really bad. I'm not disputing that. Although it's not Wallpaper Gate. Remember, a donation was covered up, and the Conservative Party was subsequently fined, I think, £17,000 by the Electoral Commission, the regulator, for that. I don't think it's Partygate and breaking the COVID rules either. But he just looks like he's a freeloader.
But
and he's, you know, and people.
But in the 2022-23 financial year, he earned over £400,000.
I think the problem with this is it coincides with when you're cutting the winter fuel allowance for poorer pensioners. So you're making life harder and tougher, and then poorer, while you're having a whale of a time yourself. Now, I think the reason you'll be so far ahead in that league table is because ministers normally go on official duties. You'll begin to drop back a bit without
without
necessarily exactly.
Basically. So you are allowed to go to the Olympics as Prime Minister because you should be seen to be there.
I saw Euro tickets were listed.
So you think that's not this year? That's going to have been from...
I would have thought that was 2021 without... No, I was just watching, you know...
Sam Coates.
Sam earlier on that. But nevertheless, it's a very bad look. And there is, you're right. I mean, look, if that was a Tory leader or Prime Minister, Labour would be putting the boot in big time, so going to have no complaints when it comes from the other direction.
Very quickly, the question is he being poorly advised? And if so, is that by Sue Gray, who it turns out, front page of the Times has got it, BBC story, it earns now more than the Prime Minister, very quickly.
Yes, she does. The Prime Minister earns £167,000 a year. That includes his MP's salary. And Sue Gray, we discovered today, is earning £170,000, so £3,000 more than the Prime Minister. She's, of course, no longer a civil servant, but is his special advisor.
There you go, just pay the PM more and they need a clothing allowance.
Well, I do agree, but pay the Prime Minister. We should pay the Prime Minister more. They're paid less than...
I've got time to discuss that.
Good luck for Keir Starmer if he says, I want more money, when he's just taken £300 from some pensioner. Good luck with that.
OK. We'll talk more, no doubt. But for now, thank you both. Here's the weather. Well, the end of the week will bring a change in the weather, with heavy showers spreading up from the south. The easterly flow remains over the weekend, though, with eastern counties likely to be dull, drizzly and cool. Low cloud and hill fog spreading westward will be widespread across England and eastern Wales by the start of the day. Chilly start for Scotland, Northern Ireland and the northwest. Patchy mist and fog. Those will clear to sunny skies through the morning. Our press preview continues. Escalating tensions in the Middle East, Israel declaring a new phase of war and another wave of explosions in Lebanon. All to come.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.